Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope doing well, and today we've got a bit of news when it comes to the next edition of the Oscars coming in 2021. Now, as you all know, I have pretty much given up on the Oscars, especially the last couple of years, where I have been hosting my own awards show on the Odin's movie blog channel as a way to boycott, give an alternative to just the complete crap fest that the Oscars have at this point become. It's been like that for several years now, but most especially since 2016, where everyone seems to be obsessing over politics and obsessing over pushing political agendas over actually recognizing some of the best films and best performances, etc. of the year. I decided, you know what, even though I might have a small channel, even though might not have a whole lot of people watching the show or voting in it even, you know what, at the end of the day, it's nice just to give people an opportunity to, celebrate the best things in film, and also, of course, to have much better categories like, for example, best one-liners, and of course also worst film of the year, which I think is a great thing to have. But let's go ahead and talk about the news that indeed the 2021 Oscars have now been postponed by 2 months, now back to April 25th. This is the latest date ever, apparently, in the history of the Oscars. Films eligible are through February 28th, Academy Museum opening delayed to April 30th, so obviously the big news here also is the fact that normally you have a cutoff date sometime in December for when films have to be able to basically are eligible to open. And so the way it used to work was that if you opened a film around the end of December, you were eligible for the next year's Oscars. Anything that came out starting January 1st would not be eligible until the next year's Oscars. And so therefore, by delaying this, it's obviously giving studios a lot more opportunities to release films that many people would consider to be Oscar bait into different time slots. Which is interesting about this, though, for me at the very least, is that it means we could potentially have actually a very good January and February when it comes to movies, because normally January is where films go to die, because all of the studios have put out all of their films by December, especially all of their films that are, again, that Oscar bait type thing. Now many of those films might have to start to come out in January and February, especially now that they've been allowed to come out at that time. So either you'll still have films come out in December, because obviously it's a much better time to make money at the theaters, because a lot of people are off of work or out of school for Christmas, etc. But, of course, that all remains to be seen. It is just interesting that we could actually have some pretty good Oscar bait type films coming out in January. So it says here, as widely expected and endlessly speculated, the other shoe has dropped and Oscar is on the move. The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences said Monday morning that the 93rd Annual Academy Awards, originally scheduled for February 28th of 2021, will now take place on April 25th, the latest date ever since the Oscars started the TV era in 1953. All right, so this is, again, the latest ever since it was actually featured on television. Previously, the latest Oscar viewers had been able to watch was when The Sound of Music took Best Picture on April 18th, 1966. It was also the first time this ceremony was telecast in color. This new date will be paired with the now again delayed opening of the Academy's new Museum of Motion Pictures, which moves from a December 14th, 2020 open, as announced by Tom Hanks on the most recent Oscar show, to April 30th, 2021. The gala opening will take place on Saturday, April 17th, a week before the Oscar Sunday. It is sure to be a monumentous period of dizzying few days if AMPA's coronavirus pandemic cooperating can stick to this new timetable. That is a bunch of words to put together there. But, of course, the big news is the fact that there has indeed been this delay. Now, again, when it comes to this new museum, it actually seems like it'd be pretty interesting. Unfortunately, I imagine that the museum, instead of actually focusing on some of the most iconic parts of film history, will instead try to pickpoint, pickpot and pick blah, 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 all different types of political points instead of actually talking about the films themselves. But the unfortunate thing about all of this, the biggest downer about all of this, is because my Wednesday Raven Awards, as I like to call them, have always been a boycott, have always been a alternative to the Oscars. This means that mine will also have to be delayed until April. So obviously that upsets me a little bit, but it also means that I get a little bit more time to get things put together. It means that I can have a much longer voting process for films and actors and things that people want to nominate for the best and the worst of the year of 2020. And of course, I'll be following the same timeline that they are, because I just want to be able to not only be able to talk about the same films that they're going to be talking about, whether it be in a positive or a negative light, in comparison to what the Oscars are going to do, but also just to give, you know, the opportunity for a lot of people that normally would be able to see a lot of movies and a lot of these movies more time to be able to see them in the long run as well. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Obviously, the Oscars, to me, have really fallen even further from grace because now apparently also they have decided to take on a diversity campaign where now movies will have to reach a certain criteria of diversity points, essentially, in order to be able to receive nomination, or at the very least, various categories are going to have to be able to fit basically diversity quotas. And whenever you're playing the game of quotas, or you know, giving films more acknowledgement because of race or because of gender or because of politics, because again, that's really identity politics when it comes down to it. It means that you're not focusing on what the best films are of the year, and it means that basically, in my mind, and I think you could have said this for a long time at this point, but especially with these new rules in place, you really could put an asterisk next to any film that wins an Oscar, any actor that wins an Oscar in those categories, because none of those categories are going to be filled with arguably the best performances of the year when you have a bunch of people in a bunch of categories and a bunch of movies being thrown in just because they happen to reach a certain quota of diversity and not because they actually are some of the best films, objectively speaking, of the year. So them pushing this back, it just means that we'll just have even more time to laugh at their nonsense and just to completely mock all the nonsense they decide to push for. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this and anything I talked about in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, hit that subscribe. It helps out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now a huge shout out to all of my June Patreon members: Albertus Magnus, Animation Commentator, Brian P., David Bobrizik, Dion, Divex, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, Kenneth Cameo, Lady T, Laura Story, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, The DJD Show, and Tina B. And also to my Subscribe Star members: Edgardo Martinez, John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Dark Star 57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J. Rod, the Beer Guru, and also Nebanon G. Adams and ZK Man, and Jonathan Carney, and Jacob Juice. Thank you all so much for being a member of Patreon and Subscribestar. And seriously, it really does mean a lot. Helps keeps the light on, helps me able to do things like the giveaways for my $5 and up backers on Patreon and Subscribestar, and also be able to put more stuff into the actual channel itself, including upgrading different components, whether it be webcams, microphones, things like that. All of that helps to support it, and it really does mean a lot. So thank you all so very much. Please, if you want to have your name shouted out or look at any of the other perks, which include things like indeed having access to exclusive 4K digital giveaways every single month, and also an exclusive podcast hosted on Patreon, Subscribestar, and also YouTube memberships as well at the $10 and up level, featuring John the Flickpig Flickinger. Please check all of those things out in the description of this video. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.